Okay, so as you guys are aware, it's been roughly about a year or like 2 years of doing God of War stuff on the channel. You're all familiar with it. If you've been on this channel, you all know what's going on. But if you haven't watched the most recent live streams, I've talked about me saving my opinions on God of War until like an official how powerful video. But I'm just gonna talk about this. This is not gonna be an edited video. It's not even gonna be all that long, honestly. It's just a video to get out for today, and also because I do want to give some feedback, or not feedback, but like some indication of where my position sits with God of War currently, and how it's scaling gonna go forward on this channel potentially. Now, to be clear, I am open to discussion with most people. There's actually been a guy who I think commented on my videos. I keep forgetting to respond back to him, but it's really kind of fucking weird because the guy released a comment 18 minutes in asking me to explain my argument regarding the Yggdrasil sentence. After watching 18 minutes of a video that I know I put scans in and spent a lot of time making very clear what the point of the video was talking about, and I know like halfway, I know like near the end he gets to a fucking rant, so I don't blame him too badly if like, maybe the rant starts earlier than I expected. Point is a lot of stuff like that. I think they actually did comment recently on a video complaining that Mangler used universes wrong, saying that universe wasn't in quotation marks, but when I looked at the actual section he's talking about, here, let me see if I can't pull it up real quickly. I won't name the individual because I don't feel like throwing them under the bus. But if they end up watching this video, they'll know they'll know who I'm talking about. Where? How far back is it? It shouldn't be that far. There we go. Yeah. Let's go to that timestamp. Yeah, let's go back up real quickly. And uh, yeah, it says yeah, no. Yeah, it does have universal quotation marks, so I'm not even gonna bother. Point is want to get my thoughts out. Where Krail scales, I gotta be honest with you. Anything higher than fucking star level is just, for the most part, for me, gone. Valhalla not only provided more evidence and some pretty damning statements from Mimir that they're all on the same planet, because Mimir reveals that him and the Fairy King, I think Oberon, I don't remember the exact name, but watch the Mimir like conversations about his past in Valhalla, and you'll see what I'm talking about. He flat out says that they crossed the sea to go to Athens. No one else needs a Unity Stone to go anywhere. We already had the Boat Captain's Key make it to the Norse Pantheon without any sort of unique special travel. So no, the idea of God of War's pantheons being on separate planets, or on separate universes or dimensions or whatever, not non-existent in my mind. There's way too much evidence against that. So obviously the next argument is, oh well, they're in separate pocket dimensions or something to that effect. There's no evidence for that outside of them having different creation myths. But even in real life, people had different explanations for how the world was created in the religious connotations of older cultures. So, and I'm probably using that word wrong, but we just got done with like a 6.5 hour stream. I'm recording this immediately after a long stream. I'm a little exhausted. So, like and to be clear, that's what Corey, if I not Corey, that's what God of War's writers, I believe it was Corey who said this, based it on the way sort of religions worked in the past. Again, I'm paraphrasing here. Don't have the scans in front of me. I can probably find them. If not, I'm for sure they're in the big God of War cosmology video we released. I'm 100% positive on that one. Something to that effect. Point is, they're all on the same planet. There's no evidence of barriers being between them. There's no direct evidence of them having separate realities of universes that they govern over respectively. Now, to be fair, there are separate dimensions within each pantheon during certain cases, because I believe Thanatos' realm's a separate dimension. The 9 realms of the Norse pantheon are, for the most part, separate dimensions, although depending on how like Mangler wants to approach that one or how you want to take the evidence, they might not be physically separated, or they are physically separated, but they're not separated by a space and time. It's weird. There are different time flows and such, but for the most part, I think we can all agree they're relatively separate dimensions. I don't think it's too crazy to say that. How they're separated is, up in the air, but I don't think it's too crazy to really talk about that way. Even if they're separated by separate dimensions, though, the other problem becomes that no one really scales to their own cosmology. The only way we would have someone scale is if you believe the story of the primordials being a one-to-one physical representation of how it happened, even though I believe there is a statement saying that it's more of a metaphorical representation or a representation, not a direct one-to-one of what actually happened. So something to that effect. I believe it is said something along the lines of it's a visualization, not exactly what occurred. And then there's also the Ymir situation where they stabbed Ymir, and according to Odin, everything just came into existence. Which technically there would still be things prior to if Odin existed before Ymir. Which I believe that is mentioned in Ragnarok. There was that cosmos area where the ice and fire realms might have existed first, but beside the point. Actually, I think those are states have been the first realms to come into creation. Not important. Point is, they're all on the same planet. There's no barrier separating them. While the cosmologies are unique amongst themselves with unique areas to them, no one really scaled to them. Odin doesn't scale to the creation of the Norse pantheon, even if you believe he did create it. No one in the Greek pantheon really scales to it because I believe it's in one of the God of War games. Persephone is going to kill everyone by destroying the world pillar, if I remember correctly. So it was going to crash and kill all of them anyway. So it wouldn't be fair to scale into their cosmology at that point, anyways. And ultimately, again, that's being incredibly generous and assuming that they are like massive spaces and the like. We do see that Surtur is able to, in his Ragnarok form, destroy Asgard. That's a pretty good feat. No one scales to it because even Surtur in his base form was showed to be vastly stronger than Kratos as he flicked his wrist and sent Kratos flying back. And not only that, when the sword actually plunged into Asgard, they're all worried about dying there. So you would downscale him maybe because of like Freya's brother, but it's such a massive downscale that we would have no way of quantifying it. And then to top it off even further than that, well, there's no real other feats because the world tree never got shook, and that was their best feat for Ragnarok, and that was the best feat for the Norse pantheon. That doesn't exist anymore. Speed, there's no real speed feats at all. The Valkyries don't travel through physical speed across the realms. They do portal travel. Valhalla basically demonstrates that one-to-one if you were still doubting that one. And again, the fact that they're all on the same planet makes even statements regarding the sun complicated. Because from what I understand, the sun I believe it's in Chains of Olympus. I could be wrong on which game it is in particular, but it's the Temple of Helios. It's not even a physical sun. When Helios' death happens in Valhalla, we just see the cloud, like the sun move away and the clouds cover it up. So you could just say the clouds are covering it up and that's it, which is consistent with what's shown in God of War 3, because at the end of God of War 3, it looks like the sun's still in the background. So I don't know. At this point, for me, to give a more generalized answer, a very short video on this one, is they're all on the same planet, 100% without a doubt. There's no spatial barrier separating them. No evidence of that. Never was. Now for sure there isn't with Mimir's new statements. Maybe you could argue Yggdrasil scaling, but no one really scales to it. And anyone in the Norse pantheon can interact with the Yggdrasil directly, from what I've been able to notice. Granted, there might be some statement I'm missing here, but when even the casual dwarves can mess with it, and so can even, I think the undead can also interact with the Yggdrasil's branches. It's very clearly a physical object, even if it is space and time. The most you would give Kratos in this case is just space-time manipulation, which to be fair, he has demonstrated some spatial manipulation with the portals he has to close, so it's not too far-fetched to say he could, have some space-time manipulation. Yeah, and that's about it. Like, star levels, the highest I'd be willing to give them, maybe multi-solar system, but there's no reason to give them universe. They don't scale that high. There's no real dimensional scaling to work with beyond this point, unless you just want to be incredibly generous and say being able to mess with the Yggdrasil makes you 4D automatically. Again, you have to be incredibly generous there. And with them being all on the same planet confirmed essentially by this point, because again, Mimir sailed across from his Celtic pantheon essentially, because I'm pretty sure even if you want to argue that the Celtic people don't have their own religious, or religious group of gods, which I'm pretty sure they do. Again, I'm after a long stream to not look it up. he still just went to the Greek pantheon without like going through a portal or some sort of realm or anything, because he never claims he did. They just sailed there. So at the end of the day, and also he does say when his girlfriend, what's her name, Sigrid, I think I think it's Sigrid. When Sigrid's leaving, he mentions that it's a seafaring journey across the world, and he knows about the other pantheons and the like. At no point does God of War ever produce the evidence in its own games that they're in separate dimensions or different universes, and the writers don't really support that position either, because they don't really state anything beyond that. I think the most iconic statement regarding this is that they're separated by geography. And even in interviews, they say he just walked to places or just went up north. We're never really given any evidence to support different dimensions, and Valhalla just made it clear they're not there. So, my rambling aside for this very short video is anything higher than like multi-solar system doesn't exist realistically anymore. There's no evidence to support different universes, and even if you want to believe every realm of the Norse pantheon is a separate universe, let's throw that one out there. Only Ragnarok scales to that. No one else does, or you would be downscaling so fucking hard that it's not even clear where you would put them at. And yeah, also again, believing Odin on how Ymir's like the realms were created is also technically not even valid, because the entire game tells you that Odin shouldn't be trusted and Odin lies about everything. So Odin's not even a valid source for an event he would have borne witness to. And yeah, so overall, where I think Kratos scales at the current moment, again, we'll see if I end up talking to somebody who might provide evidence to change my mind. It's just that with the year coming to an end, I thought I'd kind of, provide a little update on this one. Kratos is at best, maybe country level, but even then, that's being incredibly generous. But again, I'd have to go through more individual feats. I guess the point I'm making is that the higher tier Uni Plus and meta stuff like that evidence doesn't really exist anymore, or if it ever did, if we're being honest, it was a very charitable assertions most of the time. Speed wise, I think he might still be FTL, but I don't think there's any real light speed statements to work with. I could be wrong though on that one, again, coming after a long stream, probably forgetting a couple things. But overall, yeah, Uni or higher meta for me for Kratos is just dead at this point. Doesn't exist anymore. Nothing really to support it beyond just massive assertions and massive assumptions. Or if we're being a little bit more honest here, because I'm already a little exhausted, like super charitable interpretations for statements, or just flat out misconstruing statements. So yeah, Uni higher for me. Kratos is kind of dead. I can maybe see some star level stuff there, but again, I'll have to look through further details. Speed again doesn't really make sense for him to be infinite anymore, especially since the realm of Hades is what gave him infinite, or Hades, the underworld, and it's just under Greece, if I remember correctly. Even if we want to go with the idea that Hades is its own separate dimension and the light of Helios did it, that's a different discussion. But again, I don't believe that's ever. I believe there actually is a guidebook statement that claims it's from a different world, but that was, I think, in God of War 2's guidebook, and in God of War 3's guidebook, and in God of War 3, we just go down the chain. There's no portal or anything. Credit where credit's due, at least in the Norse pantheon, they make it very clear you're traveling through a portal to a new location. Whereas in Greece, you literally just go down the chain and there's Hades. So yeah, overall, those were the main sort of updates I wanted to give there regarding Kratos. Anything else really is you're just not worth mentioning at the current moment, or I would need to do more research on. Which, granted, I should have done more research before making this video in general, but I think it's kind of very clear at this point where, if you've been watching the streams, where my positions has come to with the new information from Valhalla. Yeah, they're all on the same planet, so yeah, the higher tier metas are just dead now. I think anyone who's still scaling them either has information I'm lacking or is interpreting statements far differently than what I am, which I'd have to see how they're interpreting it that way. Because I've literally seen, I believe on VSB, they argue geography means spatial dimensional barriers. When the word geography, I think, actually, let me just look it up real quickly before I take off here. Look this one up. geography. Let's see. Definition is the study of physical features of the Earth and its atmosphere and of human activity as it affects and is affected by these, including the distribution and populations of resources, land use, and industries. Literally just the land on the planet. That's it. If anyone's saying geography means like dimensional barriers and shit, you're going to need a lot more evidence to provide that dimensional barriers even exist because there's no statement for them existing in a verifiable source. Because I think there's like an author DM that like you can't verify. So there's that situation. But yeah, that's more or less my thoughts on it. Thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day. Nice little short video a day. And I'll see you guys on the next streamer video. Take care, everybody.